Hey guys, Danny Mills here from TSI Central Station. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. It's a very short episode, it's only 16 minutes long. I interviewed Clifford Blackburn and we discuss the newsletter that they sent through on a Tuesday to their followers and to their clients. And we go into a little bit more detail. So yeah, we're going to get better at this. We're going to be putting some prizes together eventually. So please carry on listening to this podcast series. It's more of a newscast, and every week that we release one, we are going to add some more exciting detail and, like I said earlier, some prizes to it. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode. Okay, so welcome back to the newscast. You guys that are listening are either going to be an experienced company in the logistics world, or you are going to be a novice. This newscast is for everybody. So what I'd like to do, obviously I've got Clifford Blackburn on the line. He's the CEO of TSI Central Station. TSI Central Station, and before I bring in Clifford, send a newsletter out every Tuesday with the latest news in the logistics field. It is researched by the team at TSI, and then it is emailed to customers via email. And it's for you to read, go through all the latest news, dissect it, digest it, and then implement it into your businesses. So welcome, Clifford Blackburn.
Thanks a lot, Danny.
So at the beginning of this, I said to you that it's, this newscast is for experienced people and for novices as well. And so like we always like to do is we like to teach. So before we get into your newsletter and the highlights and what's going on in the world of logistics, I'd like for you to share a couple of acronyms. So the first one that is a CIF. For those that don't know, CIF stands for what, Clifford?
Cost, insurance, and freight. So that's an Incoterm, right? So
Yeah.
I want to say that this is not just for logistics people, but for everybody that deals in logistics. So truthfully, if you're an importer, exporter, and you live in South Africa, you want to be listening to what's happening in the logistics world. And this certainly is a place where you can do that. Yeah. So as you said, CIF, obviously it's an acronym for an Incoterm. And in respect of that, that's an Incoterm that says cost, insurance, freight. And what does that mean? Very, very simple. So what that means is that when you buy something from overseas and they bring it to South Africa, literally they're going to bring it to the port. So in respect of sea freight, they're going to bring it to the port. From the time that it arrives at the port, that's your baby. You've got to make sure you clear it, you pay your duties, you pay your taxes, and you get it out of the port so that you can then take hold of the goods that you've brought in. Now, that's just for a novice, for somebody that hasn't imported before. This is a great way not to have to get too flustered by all of the Incoterms and what's happening. It helps you. So yeah. in total, there's 11 Incoterms or rules, as they call it, right? And that came into effect on January the 1st, 2020. So it's referred to the Incoterms 2020. So everybody knows, because certain of the terms are updated. So really what it does is it just gives you the ability, when you're bringing in something, cost, insurance, freight, meaning the cost of the goods, the insurance and the freight is paid by the supplier overseas. So when it arrives here, all you've got to do is pay for your goods, pay for the clearing, pay your taxes, pay your duties.
Cool. So thank you for that. And just to add to that, what the audience will find is on your platforms, we'll be doing an educational series on Incoterms, one Incoterm a week, explaining exactly what CIF is and LCL and all those fancy terms that the logistics world have. So the last one I wanted to ask, and I know this one, and being a novice in the game, it's always nice for me to ask these questions because people don't ask and they just go along with the flow. And that is, what is a reefer? People often hear the word reefer and they'll just accept the word. I recently learned what it is, but just in a nutshell, what is a reefer?
Yeah, so a reefer is a refrigerated container, basically when temperature needs to be controlled. So if we have a look from South Africa, we export a lot of fruit that needs to be sent out at a specific temperature. And that temperature needs to maintain itself all the way from the time you load it until the time it's received. So they call that the cold chain. You can't break that cold chain because otherwise, as you know, if your fridge goes off at home, the food gets spoiled. So exactly the same here. So Reefer is a refrigerated container. Sometimes they have, just as of interest, Danny, sometimes
Yeah.
they have an attachment to it that is attached to the container, and sometimes it's just a pluggable, meaning that they would plug it in and they would use a generator effectively to run the fridge in the container.
Cool. All right, so let's get into the nuts and the bolts of the newsletter that everybody will get emailed. And if you aren't on the mailing list, please let us know via any social media platform. Get hold of us at centralstation.co.za. Get your details to us, and we'll put you on this comprehensive newsletter. So, like any newscast or any podcast, we don't want to bore you with the information, but it's really, really, really important information that TSI Central Station put together for you to make informed decisions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to touch on the headings and the highlights of the newsletter. We cannot obviously go through all of them because we'll be here for an hour, and I'm sure you guys don't at home or in the office don't want to sit through an entire podcast hour listening to this. We're going to go through the headings. Clifford's going to take one of those really, really important ones that he feels is probably the most important. He's going to elaborate on it. And if there's anything else, go to the newsletter, read the newsletter. We are here to help you. TSI are here to help you. You can phone in, you can WhatsApp us. We are here to serve you and to get your world of logistics made a lot easier. We all know that things have risen in the sea freight part of logistics. I believe that sea rates have risen by 240% in South Africa. How has this come about?
Yeah, so I think we have to look at various things here. So there isn't one single culprit behind the surge, and I think it's a combination of a whole lot of things. Some of the factors, obviously, is the global supply chain disruption, and I think that's what comes from what happened in COVID with the pandemic. I think that still carries on. And then port congestion. And a lot of South Africans think it's only the South African ports, but certainly not. There are ports all around the world that are suffering with bottlenecks. And then obviously, I think the most important thing, why have they increased so much, is the lack of what we would call in the logistics world equipment and what a client would know as a container. So there's been an increased demand for that, and particularly from Asia. So that's pushing the prices up. Obviously, some shipping lines are just at the point where they are saying, guys, if you want to secure a container, here it is at a particular price. We're going to keep it for you. But they refer to that as the diamond tier, the diamond tier price. Now, in respect of that, that means that you're going to be paying, as you said, 240%. The 240% is made up not just of the diamond tier, but it's diamond tier. Now you've got the container. Now you need to make sure there's space on the ship. So a lot of the shipping lines are starting to charge what they call peak season surcharge. Some of them, I think, unfairly, just telling you your container's been loaded and then you don't have a choice. And I think quite simply, the easiest way to explain that is you book an aeroplane ticket from Durban to Johannesburg, you get to the plane door and they say, okay, well, you're here already, you've gone through, let's call it local customs, you've been through security check. Now it's another 500 Rand because this plane's really full. And if you want to guarantee your seat, you have to pay another 500 Rand. And you don't really have a choice. And the same with regards to the shipping, exactly the same.
In terms of charges and things found on quotes and being charged, I heard that there's another charge called the congestion charge that's been added to bills. Is this something new, or is it just because we are taking up? Is it just because we are taking up so much space?
No. So remember, it's because we're taking too long to take a container off a vessel onto the ground to get it to the final destination. So as you know, throughout South Africa, the ports have really had some challenges, and the challenges around that, which we could have a whole discussion on, but the long and the short is that equipment is failing. So in respect of that, the shipping lines are charging you now an additional fee, which is called port congestion. So you have the peak season surcharge plus port congestion surcharge, hence 240%. And to be honest with you, if you have a look at one of the shipping lines, they're charging $2,000 for peak season. Now, that doesn't sound a lot if you're earning dollars, but if you're South African, that's nearly 40,000 Rand. That's a lot of money straight off your bottom line.
Cool. So how are they going to alleviate that? I believe something's happening. A new terminal is being built in Richards Bay. Have you got any insight into that? I know part of the newsletter touches on it, but is there any insight?
Yeah, so they expect the terminal to be up by 2027, but that's really to alleviate some of the pressure out of Durban for clients that are already receiving containers out of Richards Bay and the surrounds. So that's really, it's going to take off a little bit of pressure from Durban. Remember that Richards Bay is a coal and mineral terminal, so break bulk terminal as we would call it. Now having a container terminal certainly going to alleviate. It's an additional terminal to be able to take away some of the pressure. But remember that unfortunately, it does mean a little bit more handling because not all the vessels are going to be loaded with just goods from wherever they're coming from to Richards Bay. So I think as it grows on, it will alleviate quite a bit of pressure, but also at the same time, when you're bringing goods in, you have the choice of going to Durban or alternatively to Richards Bay.
Okay. So, I mean, we're running out of time, Clifford. So is there anything else in this newsletter that you want your customers, your audience to go and have a read on? I know we can't go through it all, unfortunately, but is there anything, do you want to go over the headings that are in there, and how would they, what do they need to look out for in that newsletter so that they can get the best value out of this? And if they are still not sure, please share with us, how do they get hold of you, your team, so that they can phone in, and like always, TSI Central are there to serve you or serve their customers.
Yeah, so I think just to touch on it, really what we do in the newsletter is we cover the main topic of the week of what's happening, and you mentioned it, rates going up by 240%. Then we give you an on-the-ground report, and this is from people that are on the ground working. And this week we cover, and we just subsection it out by telling you there's been reduced tugboat availability. There's 4 in service, and that's obviously due to malfunction. There's limited equipment at Durban terminal, 3 cranes, 9 reach stackers. The straddle carrier also in Durban, there's a problem with it. And then crane outages both at Durban Container Terminal and Pier 2, and as well as Cape Town. So in Cape Town, they're operating with 1 crane. And then one of the mobile cranes malfunctioned in the Cape Town Container Terminal.
So bad.
And that's why I said the one answer to the whole thing is equipment. And then we touch on 2 news stories. The one is that a 40-foot equivalent rate spiked by 233%, but that is based really on Asia to the States and Europe. We're on about 240. And then we talk about congestion at the key transshipment hubs. And that's so important because it's where it's coming from, it's where the problem is. And then we give you also an update on the port, not the on the ground update, but the update as reported. So Cape Town, improved operations; Durban, equipment shortages; Eastern Cape, adverse weather; Richards Bay, minimal delays were reported. But remember, that's for break bulk. And then obviously we go on with a little bit extra in terms of the equipment. And then we give you a summary of the container market. So we talk about the demands, the rates, the congestion, limited space. We then give you the global container freight rates. So you can see from Drewry, they give you as they track it. And you can just see at the present moment, it's on an upward spiral, as we've discussed. And then we, with the South African Freight Forward Association and Business Unity South Africa, we generally take their summary and we give that as the last bit of the newsletter. So short, sweet, and informative. And I think informative for people to be able to use, because people don't understand why something is not happening. Why am I not getting my container? Well, where's it coming from? Oh, it's coming from Cape Town. I see they're only operating with mobile crane. Now I understand how come that's happening. Why is it in Durban? Exactly the same explanation.
Okay. And I think that's it. But just in closing, I just want to tell everybody that, again, and I'm going to reiterate it, TSI Central Station are there to serve you and there to help. If you're not using TSI Central Station and you're using another company for your logistics, give TSI Central Station a go. They're on call, they're on email, they're on all the social media platforms. And before I let Clifford go, I want to ask Clifford, what makes TSI Central Station different to the rest of your competitors, and why should someone that is unhappy or not getting the service that they deserve, why should they come over? We'll finish on this, to TSI Central Station. Why must I entrust my logistics over to TSI? What is the difference?
I think the difference is very simple. So it's twofold. Number one, service. We operate of around 98.7 to 99% service efficiency. It's measured weekly. It's collated together monthly. Service is not an option. Service is our key. And obviously, second, price. And what we do differently to everybody else is we've become an extension of your business, opposed to being just a service provider. We work to the common goal of your business, opposed to the common goal of the rest of the logistics service providers that go over there. And then, I'd just like to end by saying, if you want to get the newsletter, very easy. You can just email Olivia, Olivia at centralstation.co.za. And she'll put you on the mailing list and make sure that you get the news weekly. Thanks, Danny.
Cool. All right. And so lastly, from my side, please, guys, this is an extremely difficult industry. We appreciate every one of you, and would love your comments on all the social media platforms if you can. The more you engage with the TSI and the team, the better the services will get. We would love your follow. Tell your friends about us. We're going to try and make this podcast a lot more exciting. We are cutting our teeth on this, and we're just two men that are trying a new start. We're not trying a new start, but we're certainly going to deliver some quality content to you. And as we grow, we are going to get better at this. So please, your likes and your follows are appreciated.